Welcome everybody to another edition of Tommy Chris TV. It's great to have you with us, as always. And this is our first shot at the remote thing. We haven't done this kind of format ever, and I personally I like it, but and I may continue to do it once the pandemic passes, and I hope it does pass. But anyway, our guest today is a guy that hasn't been here in 10 years, believe it or not.
True.
Mr. Dr. John Cox, excuse me. And he is a renowned actor, director in our area, very active in community theater, and he's a well-respected pediatrician. Welcome, John. Great to see you.
Thank you, Tommy. Good to see you, man.
I did want to get to this COVID thing because it's so important and it's affecting everybody's lives. And how have now you deal with children all the time? Have you seen a lot of cases?
No, I have not personally seen a bunch in my office. Because with the sick kids, I can't tell if it's a regular cold or if it's coronavirus because I can't test for anything yet. I still can't test for anybody in my office. And I've only had one child for sure that had symptoms and that was sick and that got diagnosed with it, but it was all through telemedicine. I'm only doing well visits in the office right now because just for that reason. And I'm doing a lot of this. I'm doing a lot of telemedicine visits, for the sick kids, for the rashes, and for peace of mind visits for moms.
Well, you apparently have a great love for children.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're the best.
What do you think of this is the most important thing about this? Is it the social? Because what really bothers me is, and I've seen commentary on Facebook and all that stuff, and the thing that bothers me the most is people do not observe social distancing like they should be.
Yeah. There's been some studies and masks and facial coverings essentially, because, the masks are not perfect at all by any stretch.
No.
As physicians, we're not saying the masks are going to protect you from getting it. It's a deterrent. And it's not just a deterrent to catch it. It's for you to give it, because a lot of people are asymptomatic, which means they're having no symptoms whatsoever. But yet if they cough, they're shedding this virus everywhere that somebody else may get. So distancing and facial coverings drops the viral load, which is the amount of load your body can receive. It drops it by like almost up to 90-some%. Prevention is the key to everything. If you can't catch the virus, you can't catch the issues that may subsequently lead from that virus. So
now, do you require the mask in your office?
We do. It's not only safe for the patients, I want to make it safe for my staff. I can't afford to get the girls in my office sick. I'm a solo practitioner. I don't have the corporation behind me. I just have me and my 8 ladies that work for me, and I don't want them to get sick.
Are we too spoiled and uninformed in this country? Do you think that?
I do, because I hear people going, "This is a ploy to help Trump lose an election. This is a ploy."
I've heard that too.
And I'm like, I think this is a health crisis, and it's a worldwide health crisis. You know what I mean? So I don't see the government like Governor DeWine saying distance and shelter in space with your families. It's being done in Germany. It's being done in Italy. It's being done in multiple countries across the world with success for the same reasons. So for when people in America are complaining that it's the government, it's tyranny, I'm like, well, it's happening everywhere. It's not just.
Why don't we have more testing in this country? Why do you think that is? Because it's certainly not for a lack of money, right? We have the money.
No. I wish I had the good answer for that. It's a matter of, I've heard people say, well, the more you test, the more numbers you have, and that looks bad to have more numbers. So if you don't test, you can't tell who's sick. They fired, the guy down in Florida was fired, one of the guys who was taking statistics, because he was keeping accurate statistics, and they didn't want accurate statistics. So they got rid of it. So I'm like, when you get into that, when you're trying to manipulate the numbers of it, that's not the wise thing to do. I think, trying to be able to, for me as a physician, I'd love to know who has it and who has it right now.
Just this love affair with the economy. It's people, and I've actually heard politicians come on TV, and I've seen that on the internet as well, put the economy before our health, actually, literally put the economy before our health. More important for us to make money than it is to live. Is that what these people are telling me?
I wish I knew that. It sure seems that way at times, But then again, I look at the other bigger companies in the world. Disney is closed down a little bit still. They're not wide open. NCAA football has not determined whether they're going to start their season on time or have a season. Major League Baseball is not playing. NBA is not playing. So while they're saying get out there and do these things, the millionaires and billionaires are walking away from some cash to stay safe. So in some levels, that also tells me something. The idea of sport too, I mean, after 9/11, football was a godsend. I mean, sports is a great distraction for our country. I want this stuff back as much as anybody. I got two young boys, freshmen and sophomores, that are football fanatics. You know, they want to play. And so I want that, but I also want safety. And so the NFL with professional players thinks with the media and the technology they could have and putting, you know, maybe webcams in the stadium on a variety of seats that the season ticket holders can log in and kind of, there's different ways they're experimenting with trying to do things on a different level. I'm doing that as well with the theater. You know, being the board president of the Playhouse, we're trying to figure out how to get people to see entertainment, to bring live theater to them, because live theater in a group in one building right now is not a possibility. I don't think people don't feel safe, and we don't have the testing or a vaccine or medicines yet. So, you know, we at the Playhouse are going to we're taking what major theaters across the country and across the world are doing, and we're just going to go dark until the first of the year and focus on grant writing and focus on reorganization and focus on getting our building in tech stuff we never have time to do because we're always producing shows. Now we can kind of restructure, refocus, and look for different avenues of money, essentially. So we're not going to have ticket sales. I don't want to hit up the public for donations all the time because everybody's in a pinch. You know what I mean? And that's, I grew up in this community, and you realize that you can't, you know, we had a great GoFundMe campaign, which was wonderful for us. It set us up for the next 5 months.
That's good.
It's wonderful.
I didn't see it. I missed it.
Yeah. So that helped out tremendously, but grant writing and that avenue is something that the board or the Playhouse itself has not entertained or needed to for a very long period of really ever, or in spurts. And now we're going to try to make it a big focus because that's really the only way I see where we can keep ourselves solvent as we approach our 100-year anniversary.
So now, gathering everything that you have told me so far, you think that opening in June, or today is the official, is it May 21st today? Today is the official reopening day for all the states. All the states are now officially
21st is, 21st is reopening. 26th, they're going to reopen, you know, some more camps and things like that. So they're in that progress of reopening. And I'm I'm kind of on a 2-week window, to be honest with you. Every 2 weeks, it adjusts. Things change.
That's probably wise. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I kind of reevaluate and say, where are we, and where are we still in a good place, and are we still going the right way with the numbers and the exposure? And then things can still open. I'm picking July 15th, only because that's 6 weeks away from the start of the college football season. And I've talked to a couple of coaches who said it takes 6 weeks for a major college to get their team ready to play. So if by July 15th, NCAA, there's no announcements and the schedule and the season's going to go off on time, and they're convinced, which means kids will be in college and all that stuff. So July 15th, or they'll say, we're pushing the season back to October, or we're going to cancel the season. So for me, that July 15th date is going to be a big window into where the rest of the world is for the next 6 or 8 months.
Hey, I wanted to kind of get to the theater thing now.
Fun stuff.
Oh, by the way, I came down to see you guys at the Noises Off production.
Oh, thank you.
And it was great. I enjoyed it very much. It was hilarious. It really was.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was painful. A lot of us ended up injured.
Oh yeah,
there was old people jumping around, flopping around on stage.
Do you like slapstick?
Oh, I love it.
You have the most outrageous situations and the most outrageous people, and it's a big show. So it's just a bunch of kids getting together and playing. And that's what I enjoy about it. We all like and support each other, and it's just an ideal cast, so far as I'm concerned. We just have so much fun.
People's pants fall down. That would, if you've never seen that happen on the Playhouse stage, you will see it happen multiple times here.
So you see this group trying to put on this production. So each act is a little different. The first act is the last dress rehearsal, and it's just not quite coming together. Act 2, we turn the set around, and you're able to see a couple weeks later at a performance everything that's happening backstage, and how the relationships between everybody have evolved and changed. And in Act 3, we turn the set back around, and you see a performance a few weeks later where everything goes haywire.
You know, this is a really light, fun, fast-paced comedy where you can just like come and laugh and forget about how dreary it is outside.
If you think theater is pretentious, if you think actors are pretentious, this is the show that punctures all that, that shows you what happens behind the scenes and how disastrous it is.
Love it. Grew up watching it. So I mean, that's what the old silent comedians. I was a big fan from when I was a kid, watching all those guys and watching Jerry Lewis and Abbott Costello. Abbott and Costello. I mean, that's it. So yeah, that hit to my heart. So it was a blast.
Laurel and Hardy are my favorites. I love them too. I just love watching those guys.
Yeah.
Comedy as opposed to drama. You know, I have heard guys like George Burns and, you know, people like that say, drama's easy, comedy is hard. Well, how do you feel about that?
I think for the majority of performers, that is 100% true.
Yeah. Why do you think comedy is hard to get laughs? Or is it?
There are people that are naturally funny, and there are people who know how to be funny. Yeah. And then I heard that then there are people who play the accordion professionally. That was a joke in a movie. But so there are people who just, when they're musicians or they're singers or they're great actors, but comedy is all timing. Comedy to me is music, and you got to be able to hear those rhythms. And if you say if a timing of a joke is off by a half a second or a word is out of place, it kills the joke. You know, I saw a documentary on Jerry Seinfeld, and, you know, you watch Seinfeld in stand-up doing his act, and he'll talk and everything, and then they'll go to him and they'll show the legal pads where every word is written out word for word with things scratched out, because how you say the words, what you say as a joke, it all matters. And for some people, it just frightens them and they're not good at it. I personally, maybe I'm just too childlike, but that's my favorite. And to be silly.
You know, interesting point, because I read an article recently, and it was about Johnny Carson. And Johnny hated doing, speaking of timing and stuff, Johnny hated doing shows with Bob Hope because Bob had to have everything prepared, a prepared text for his comedy, and which is amazing to me because Bob Hope had such great timing.
Sure.
So I was trying to figure out how he did that. With a prepared text on, and Johnny Carson, Bob Hope had to stick to the prepared. He says it was very annoying because he had to stick to the prepared text.
Yeah.
Bob Hope was a guest, so I'm wondering how they worked out the prepared text with the timing that Bob Hope had. So, you know, that's another.
Well, and that's honestly why comedy is hard, because you also need to have a straight man or somebody who can set up those, and the setup to a joke is just as important as a joke.
Yeah.
So writing those guys, so that's why Johnny Carson was brilliant. He let people be themselves, and he knew how to give, how to take, how to work, how to pull back.
It was also improvisational on his show.
On his end, it's always improvisational on his end. You know what I mean? And that's what made him, I think, fantastic.
Now, when you choose a play, how do you go about doing that? What's the process involved in that?
At the Playhouse, Jimmy McClellan, who is our executive director, we picked the season the year before. And it's based off a variety of reasons. Number one is cost and casting. You pick a show and go, okay, do we have the cast to do this? You know, you want to do like Miss Saigon. You need a lot of, Asian American actors. We don't have a lot of Asian American actors in Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
So Miss Saigon may not be something we try to put on at some point down the future. So you look at budget, you look at set size, you look at, the feasibility of it. How expensive is it to put on? Once you decide, go over those numbers and budgetary wise, we can do this. Then you go, is this a marketable show? Can we get people to come see it? Can we market it in this area? we found that some of the plays based off of movies like Young Frankenstein,
Uh-huh.
uh, those are hits. They weren't great on Broadway, but people around here love them because they're familiar. They know the name. They've seen, oh, I saw that movie, and then they'll come to see it, and then they'll end up liking it because that palpability of live theater is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So once we get the budget lined up, you call the royalty houses. Every show is owned by a royalty company,
Uh-huh.
because the author and whoever needs to get their money. So you call the royalty company, you make sure the rights are available on the times you need them.
Is that expensive?
They
Well,
can be. Yes, musicals are very expensive. To put on a musical like we did Dreamgirls,
yeah.
last season.
Saw that. Yeah. Mhm.
Dreamgirls cost us about $24,000 to put on.
Yikes.
So for a theater company, nonprofit, that is a huge chunk. Now,
Sure.
then we could put the show in our Moyer room, or like Noises Off. We did on the main stage as well.
Yeah.
Our budget for Noises Off was around $11,000. So I mean, a straight show without music is a cheaper proposition.
Sure.
The musicals, you have to pay for the musicians, you have to pay for the and the royalties are usually a lot larger for the musicals because they also bring in more money. Makes more money, costs you more money to do it.
You guys ever do recorded music in any shows? What's the timing? Would the timing be difficult on something like that?
A little bit it is, yeah. Once you get canned music like that, number one, it takes a little bit away from the environment and the ambiance of the theater.
Mhm.
But you have to have somebody really, really good still as your orchestra leader, because then they can vary the pace to go with the singer. Because I mean, you're also dealing with live performances, and
Right.
people get off pitch or off key. And if you're off and there's no live musicians, they can follow you. If you're off and it's a track, that looks a little awkward. You know what I mean?
You got to catch up with the track. Sure.
You got to catch up, right? Or you got to be aware, number one, that you're actually off, and that sometimes isn't even the case.
You better know where you are. Plus, there's times when people running the music, their timing is important too, because they don't start the music where they're supposed to and
Right.
stuff.
That's why I love the theater, actually, because of the collaboration. It takes everybody, for that guy on stage to look great, for Nathan Lane to do, the producers on Broadway and look awesome. He needs to have his co-stars doing what they got to do. The lighting guy know what they got to do. The sound. I mean, everybody needs to work together to make it all work right. So, and that, I think the collaboration of it and the process of putting it all together, that's always the most fun, I think.
So do you have a large pool of actors you can choose from in this area for, whatever production you're doing?
We do, actually, and we've been gaining them. I think the quality of our productions is something that I have been striving to do. I don't see our theater as any different than any other theater in the country. The same script I read of Noises Off is the same script the Broadway guys read. So to me, it's just the commitment of the production team and the commitment of the actors. So we've gained a lot of actors from, Salem and Newcastle and the Youngstown area. But yeah, I'd say probably we have a pool of maybe at any one time 50 to 75 performers that we know or we can choose from or call or have an idea that who might be good in a show or who should really audition for this show or things like that. You never want to pre-cast, at least in our business. We don't want to say this person's already got this role, but you got to be able to think ahead of time. Can I cast this show? It's really hard to do, Mame without having a great lady who can do Mame.
Right. Or without knowing, you really want to do something, but you're not sure you have the people.
Correct. Like we knew we had the cast to put together for Dreamgirls. We knew this was the time. We've been trying to do it for years.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure if we can pull together a good cast.
By the way, I wanted to ask, who did you cast for that?
There was a couple local guys. Josh Green, who's actually working in New York, was home for the time, so he was actually in it. We had a couple people who've done Broadway style productions or Broadway touring companies that were in our production of Dreamgirls because they were all home at the time.
Cool.
James Major Burns was in it, and he's been in variety shows all over and started to do some professional gigs. And they just happen to be hometown guys that the Playhouse has cultivated over the years and gotten to shows.
And the girls?
The girls were all girls that they were friends of the director or friends of the other cast members. I mean, they kind of pretty much started to pull people from Canton and Akron that they've worked with in the past.
Oh, that's great.
They knew some people that were great church singers and choir singers that didn't do a lot of shows that they actually brought in to do the show.
Uh-huh.
So the vocals and the dancing was just unbelievable, top notch.
I
And
wanted
that's
to
what
ask
makes it great.
Wanted to ask you about. I've got the flyer here, and you've lost Venus in Fur.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, we had Venus and Fur. That was the last show we did.
oh, you
That was
did
the
that
last.
one.
That was the last show that actually got done, and because that was in the Moyer room, and a Moyer room only holds about 65 people.
Okay.
So during the time that was right as things were starting to close down, that was the last weekend before we could do anything. So that was actually the last production we got in.
Now the Moyer room. That's where the children's theater used to be.
It is we do children's theater back there. It is the back room back by our lounge area and our bar
Right.
that was basically used. It was a shut down place, and about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I said, let's make that a small little black box theater, and we could do little actors projects, small cast shows, and some of our better dramas and better comedies have been in that back room because you are literally 4 feet from the performer.
Well,
So
there was an area that you guys used to have there that went down a stairs, I believe it
yes,
was.
that was the old arena that was downstairs that got filled
Right.
in, and that was a mistake years and years and years ago.
And now I
So the
heard something
concept,
about that getting filled in with cement.
yes, with Strauss's building from downtown. Actually, when they tore down Strauss's, they filled it up. They just filled up that arena with cement.
Oh,
The people that were in charge at the time of the Playhouse were not doing the best they could for the Playhouse at that time, and they ended up not being there. And so there was some mistakes that were made at that time because getting rid of that arena was
that
not
was
a good
bizarre.
idea.
Why did they just shut the door? Or why did they fill it up with cement?
To try to make the place less profitable and less, so it looked like it couldn't stay open.
Yeah,
So,
that's strange to me. But
yeah,
anyway, there was also the Gone Away place, the
Yeah.
Lighted Piazza, and this one here says a story of life.
Yeah.
Are these pushed back, or they're done?
at the moment we've ceased all productions at the moment, and I'm not sure that any of those shows are going to be put back onto our season for next year. The only show that we have guaranteed that we had a whole season planned out, but I didn't want to announce it because of all the shutdowns. Because the last thing I want to do is say, "Hey, coming in September, big show," and then say we can't do it. So the first show that we have is May of 2021, and we got the rights to The Color Purple, which no other regional theater company in the area has had at all. So it's a regional premiere, and the same cast and production team from Dreamgirls is going to be running because we knew we had the talent. So we're like, let's get The Color Purple. So that's going to be for sure May of 2021, and as far as I know, that may be our opening show. I mean, life will dictate that to me, but we're hoping that we can get people back in theaters by then, at least. We're hoping.
I know you guys have discussed this before, but is there any possibility of, and not to take anything away from the Playhouse as it is, but was there any discussion of relocating the Playhouse somewhere?
Yes. There's been and ongoing discussions about that.
Okay.
As board president, I think my job is to keep the organization viable. The building is important to us, and I'd love to stay right where I am. We've been working with downtown to get some help. We need some assistance in that area. There's not a lot of traffic in that area. I mean, it used to be back in the day when Idora Park was open, and there was a perfect place for it when it was built in 1959.
Wow.
Now in 2020, it's not a very efficient building. The utilities are outrageous because it's an old cinder block building.
Yeah.
So because of financial situations, because of a variety of things, we have been, keeping our ears open and our eyes open. We have no intentions of going anywhere. But if somebody says, "Hey, we'll build you a brand new theater downtown Youngstown," I'm going to listen to them.
Oh, sure.
So at the moment, we have no intentions, but for our future, I'm always evolving as the times evolve. I think being a flexible board is a more powerful board, because then you're ready to roll with the punches and address what changes in your world. Who could have predicted coronavirus and this all stuff? So we need to adapt and shift how we focus things. We're not doing live performances at the moment. We're looking for new ways to maybe do a Zoom show. I'm involved in another theater company's production of King Lear, which is all going to be done on Zoom, and we're going to record it, and he's going to edit it. So I want to see how that process works, and if that's something that's cool, hell, let's do it. I mean, look at. I think sometimes also adversity. This as a songwriter, as a musician, some of the best songs some people wrote are in their worst, darkest times of their life. times of isolation and all that stuff brings out sometimes better art.
Yeah.
So God knows what plays or what musicals are being devised in somebody's head right now because of all this stuff. So, let's find new ways to do these things. And that's what's going to be our focus for the next 6 months.
The sponsorships,
Yeah.
difficult, right? That's a difficult thing to get accomplished.
It is. As a business that's been in Youngstown for 97 years,
Right.
the same businesses are not in Youngstown that have been here for 97 years. There's not a lot of local, there's a lot of international businesses that are here in town, a lot of chain restaurants, a lot of chain banks, where before they were all locally owned. When you had locally owned, people were giving to their own community.
Right.
So sometimes the bigger corporations are not local and those funds are smaller. So that's why we have to still entertain that avenue and try to cultivate sponsors. But that's where I thought the grant proposition, because it's a brand new open highway for us, that was probably where we could find more bang for our buck, is to focus on that aspect and to still try to get as much sponsors. And still that means doing better shows, having, good word of mouth where people go, oh yeah, the place has been doing good lately. Now I'm willing to invest money back into them. They saw we were almost closed 12, 13 years ago and almost went out of business. We're not like it anymore. In this time of this crisis and pandemic, we actually have money and we're actually not sweating month to month like it has been in the past. And it is for most nonprofits.
That's great.
So to have a little,
you're doing a lot of that legwork too, right? I mean, as director of the Playhouse, you're doing a lot of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always, it's a labor of love because we're not getting paid for that. My real job is being a doctor, but this is what I like. And it's also a good outlet. And I think a town with art is a viable town. I think that also drives some vitality for our area. And I don't want to give up that it's been around for 97 years. I don't want to be the guy who, this place doesn't exist anymore. And all those people, all the work that they did to get it to this point. I want to make the 100 and I want to plan for the next 100.
Well, you mentioned the corporations. How about the local large corporations like DeBartolo and Cafaro? They helped a lot.
They have helped intermittently, and they have been helpful to us. The DeBartolo and the Yorks for sure have been a lot,
but it's not consistent.
Not consistent, and I think it's because we, quite frankly, as a business for a lot of years. I mean, I've been board president now for going on my 4th year, and for 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have a good reputation. There was the business side of it. We didn't, they weren't paying bills, they weren't doing things as a business, and people didn't want to do business with the Playhouse. So our reputation on a business level, not only artistic, makes a huge difference. So right now, I think we're slowly getting our name back out, and they're seeing that we're viable and we're not going anywhere at this point, and that's bringing people back, which is great. Yeah, that's the goal.
Do you hear my puppy dog back here crying? It's time for his walk.
I don't. I've been waiting for mine to start. I've been telling my wife, make sure they don't go crazy. We got like 7 little Malteses, little ones, and they go crazy. I lost that battle. That's a fight I lost in my own household.
Wow, 7 dogs.
They're cute though. They just want to love you.
Listen, it's always great talking to you. I really enjoy it, and you're welcome back anytime. If there's something you want to talk about, and you want to promote a show or anything like that, please, by all means, get in touch.
I would love that.
And it has been 10 years. The last show we
I know. I know for a fact because my nephew was born the day we were taping. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember you saying that.
I had just come from the hospital. I was doing a play, and I had a stupid mustache at the time, I remember. And my nephew had just been born, and I had visited him at the hospital and then came to see you to record that.
I do remember. It was at the old Kuzman's.
Yes, it was.
Park. Yeah.
I vividly remember. Yeah.
Well, as I said, great seeing you, John, and I'll be down at the Playhouse to watch you guys because I thoroughly enjoyed the last thing that I saw and continued.
And on a separate personal note, please say hi to your wife and your son's art was key and wonderful for our noises off, and the character it fit the style of the play perfectly, and it was being original. It's also something that I was very proud of for the Playhouse. So thank you to your family.
Yeah, I was also very proud. Thank you. Yeah. And take care of yourself. Be safe. Be healthy. And see you again soon.
You got it.
Take care, my man. Bye now.
See you, Tommy.